Please welcome Joanna Macleod, Vice President of Service Delivery at American Express Business Travel.
Apologies, I was a little bit far away from the stage there. I think just before I start, it might be worth making reference to the previous speaker, Leonard, and it was quite good, I think, that he decided to step off the stage. You probably realise by now I'm Scottish. And there's a few characteristics of Scottish people. So I just want to say, so far today, I have not had a drink. That's not to say I won't have one or two before the day's out. So, good afternoon, everyone. And I know we're running a little bit behind the agenda, so I will try to get us back on track, because I know I'm the last speaker for today. Today I want to share with you one way that American Express has adapted to the changing environment and the increasing customer demands by transitioning from what we call bricks and mortar or physical centres to home-based. Some of you may be familiar with home-based servicing and some of you will maybe not. Certainly I'm sure all of you are familiar with at least remote working. In around mid-2011, I began to hear some noise about, or some rumblings I would say rather than noise, about home-based servicing. And I was extremely sceptical. I've spent a good part of my career in the customer servicing industry, and my thoughts were, productivity is going to drop, customer experience will drop. How are we going to control these agents at home? They'll be doing whatever they want and we'll have issues. My colleague in the Americas put together a plan in 2011 to transition 1,000 of our travel consultants home. And literally I thought he was crazy. But because it was such a big and bold move, I really took upon myself to learn about home-based servicing, to look at what the experience was, and the data, the success of it. So really, that's what I did. In 2012, I launched home-based servicing in 7 countries in Europe, and by the end of this year, over 20% of my team will be based from home. I just want to set the context as well of the industry I'm in. I lead service delivery for corporate travel. This is a business-to-business service where our customers require a very efficient and effective service in booking their travel for them, and then very importantly, helping them with any changes that are required while they're on trip. So that might be through flight cancellation, although we know that never happens, or a misconnection. So there's the importance of both the booking process and helping a traveller when they're on the road. Home-based servicing, I've seen home-based servicing adopted by many different industries. So I hope today, although I'm specifically talking about our experience in the corporate travel arena, I hope today that you will see the relevance to your particular industry and company. So as I'm not going to spend too long on this, but as we, life is continually changing. And if we just look at a couple of areas that have evolved significantly, computing is now portable and connectable. People can access anywhere, anytime. Networks are springing up everywhere. There's no longer any need to be in a landline. Everyone has their smartphone. So when we look at some of the changes in the industry or changes in our environment, what are the ways that I've seen that they have impacted our industry? So first of all, customers want to be able to connect to us the way that they want to connect to us, and really 24/7. And as we look at a 24/7 service, we really need to look at a much more flexible model for working, and that's where we really felt that our home-based servicing model came in. So from my experience in the customer servicing industry, we've gone through a transition over the last 10 to 15 years in how service has been provided. So if we think back maybe 10 more years ago, we had a very localized service. It was disparate, non-standard servicing, not that much use of technology. We then went through a stage of very much consolidation into bigger centres, centralisation, process standardisation, the use of tools, and really the start of focus on customer experience. There then was, of course, the focus on leveraging lower cost servicing through offshoring, and also the multilingual regional hubs. I saw then a period of, I would say, realignment or adjustment where there was greater focus on the customer experience, and you saw some realignment there, particularly in some of the very aggressive offshoring moving back onshore. Now what I see as being the trend is the uptake of home-based servicing. And although we haven't seen home-based servicing grow enormously in the UK and Europe, certainly the growth of it in the US, I think we can take some learnings from that and look to see what that's going to mean in terms of the growth that we'll see in the UK and in other countries in Europe. So I would see that, a couple of years out, that we'll move as an industry to what I would call an adaptive global network. Really leveraging for the right services, home-based servicing, physical centres, and offshoring. So it's estimated today that in excess of 25 million workers work remotely in the US, and that's predicted to grow to 63 million. There is not that much data in Europe at the moment, so I don't have any specific data in Europe to quote to you, but just the exponential growth that's going to be seen in home working. As I said, I think we will start to see that take place also in Europe. The data, I wanted to share with you some data which you will see in the right-hand chart there. At a home working summit in Dallas, the companies were asked what percentage of their employees today did they have home-based, and where would that move to? So overall, 20% of employees are home-based, and that was expected to double by next year. So really a big growth. Then the participants as well were asked, did they see increased results in various dimensions? And you could see there that they all saw increases, and particularly significant increases in employee attendance and employee retention. So what have we done in terms of American Express business travel? So you'll see there all the countries that we've rolled out to. We've rolled out in 13 countries globally. For any of you that start counting the countries, within Nordics is Sweden and Denmark. So that makes up the 13 countries that we're currently rolled out to. And you can see that we will move in Europe, we will be approximately, as I said, just over 20% by the end of the year. but very significant in the US and Australia. And that is, when I look back at the US experience, that has been over a 3 to 4 year period that we've grown so extensively. But really, the reason that we are growing our home-based servicing to these types of numbers is because of the benefits we're seeing. And we are seeing significant benefits in customer experience, in employee engagement, and in the financial benefits that we're getting from it. So let me just outline in terms of the benefits. I'll start first of all with the employee benefits. So one of the we have found that we've done surveys of employees both pre and post they're moving from a centre to home-based, as well as we have our annual employee engagement survey. We see higher results on our employee engagement survey for home-based employees than we do for our centre employees. And we see specifically in terms of the experience pre and post, significant improvement. One of the big benefits in terms of this life-work balance is the ability for an employee to cut out their commuting time completely. And if I just take something that's fairly reasonable and would be fairly reasonable in London or in the UK, a 1 hour commute each day, it works out to be, that's 10 hours, a 1 hour each side of a day. It works out to be 10 hours a week, and that's 40 hours a month. So you're giving back to the employee on a monthly basis. You're almost giving a whole week's working time back to the employee for their personal time by taking out the travel time. Also, there's the costs, as everybody knows, there's significant costs involved in commuting, and you also give that back to the employee. There's less stress from no commute. So that time, the less stress, and an employee actually saves by doing it. In terms of the financial benefit, of course, where you do decide, to rationalise your actual real estate and centres and close a centre, of course, there's a direct saving associated with that. But really, where I would say a lot of the savings come from is the increased productivity. We have seen, and this is consistent with experiences that I've shared, that I have received from colleagues across multiple industries. There is lower attrition, lower absenteeism. I better get that right. Lower absenteeism, and there's the ability, which is very important from a customer experience perspective, is a better staffing model. So split shifts are possible when people are working from home, which may not be at all possible when they're working from a centre. So that means that if the busy time is between 4 and 7 in the evening in one particular business, then there's, and perhaps between 9 and 11, there's the ability to have split shifts because the person is based at home and they can plan their day around having time off in the middle of the day. So split shifts are possible, which means that you're staffing better to the contact arrival pattern, whatever types of contacts that you're dealing with. The other thing that's very important in our business from a customer experience perspective is that we often, particularly out of our support, something will happen. So if we go back to the time of the ash cloud or particular weather disruptions, which you get every year, you're able to schedule home-based employees very quickly and get that responsiveness for the customer. So that has been a huge benefit to us in terms of getting very better customer experience, and that we're able to staff better to when the customers call. And of course, some of that we get very late notice, as we do in all our businesses, whether it's a sales business, whether it's a marketing business, or whether it's a customer service or technical support. So there's always these peaks that we need to deal with. So for us, the crisis management part is very important. The other part from a customer experience perspective is about the ability to be able to attract the best talent. This is not so relevant in the type of economic environment that we're in at the moment, where probably a lot of us are not doing extensive hiring at the moment, but I certainly see this as a benefit as we hopefully soon will move into a much better economic environment. Instead of being able to just hire from the pool of people that are within a commutable distance from a centre, your ability to hire is you can hire anywhere in the country. And in fact, you could actually hire outside the country as long as the person had the language skills. But you can hire anywhere, which really opens that your ability to attract higher quality candidates, which then, of course, will deliver a better customer experience. So that's a really important one. And companies have found that have really expanded into home-based servicing, that they're also attracting candidates that would not necessarily like to work in a contact centre, service centre environment, but by working at home, they love the customer servicing business, and they're very willing to work from home, but not within a centre. So I think the ability to attract good talent and then retain it is much, much improved. And I think that'll be important as as we do move into a better economic environment over the coming years. I wanted to share with you as well some of the performance in terms of customer experience. This is from the business, our business in the US. Because of our scale at the moment, we don't have sufficient data to prove this as yet. But what we've seen in the US, what I've done there is just quarter and quarter compared the customer satisfaction results for the non-virtual or the centre employees versus the virtual, the home-based employees. And you can see there that we've got a good improvement for our virtual employees. So this really categorically says that the customer experience, which is one of the things I was very concerned about when I started investigating home-based servicing. I was very concerned that customer experience would drop, and in fact what we've seen is an improvement. On the right-hand side is our after-hours servicing. And again, we virtualized that a bit later, but as you can see as well, the trend is looking good in terms of improvements in customer experience there as well. So there's, I think there's always many different concerns, and I know I certainly had a lot of them when I embarked on the journey of investigating home-based servicing. And these are the four these are the four concerns are the biggest ones generally to businesses. So the first one, security. I mean, obviously that is hugely important. And really now with the lockdown technology and the security and the surveillance tools that can be put in place, companies have not found this is an issue. And in fact, some of the data would say that there is less fraudulent behaviour from home-based servicing employees than there is from centre employees. The second one, people won't work as hard at home. In fact, the data would say the opposite, and I can just quote from my own business in Europe. We've seen in the pilot groups that we have launched, we've seen up to 20% productivity improvements, servicing the same customers, no other change apart from them moving home. The company cultural connection weakens at home. I think this is a valid concern, and work really needs to be done to ensure that the employees remain connected to the brand, as well as getting the relevant coaching from their leader. What we've really done as a principle is where teams are virtual, the leaders are also virtual, so the team leader will also be virtual. And twice a year, as well as the employee engagement survey, we do what's called a coaching survey, a coaching effectiveness survey, where our travel consultants are asked about the effectiveness of the coaching they're getting from their leader, the coaching development they're getting from their leader. And we've seen higher scores and higher coaching scores for the virtual consultants than we have for those in centres. And I remember once my colleague in the Americas been asked, how many times a year does a travel consultant actually meet with their leader face to face? Those that are in a virtual environment. And he said some of them have never met their leader. So I think what that says is that the coaching, development and management of remote employees can absolutely be done, and done very effectively. Service level slides because people are distracted. Again, as I said earlier, we've seen productivity improvements. We see employees almost more focused than they would be in a centre. There are less distractions for them, because obviously the home environment that they set themselves up in, there are certain requirements for that, because they have to have space, dedicated space to work in. And concentrate, but we certainly have seen that they remain very focused on the customer and the service. So, I think I've managed to make up a little bit of time there. Will I hand back to you, Winifred, now?